Sean.
We're on the road again.
Yeah, you are. You're going. I heard the news. You're going to Toronto. So
Oh, Toronto. I'm gonna get to the East Coast first, and then make my way up to Toronto.
you're not driving from LA?
I'm not gonna drive from LA. I might drive from Manhattan. We'll see. I don't know. It could
That's
be
a
a
lot
fun
easier,
fall color drive. We'll see.
a lot more
Yeah.
feasible, and
Yes.
could be beautiful actually
I'm sure it's
to go
beautiful,
to the coast
and
or like that.
the camera will be on at the ready.
I'll
But
take you forever to get there.
it looked. I think it's about 8 hours.
No, but you'll stop every
Oh,
second
true.
to
Yeah,
take a
it's 8 hours
picture.
driving, 8 hours photography, probably. Yeah.
All worth it. All worth
It
it.
is all worth it. And the best part, fall colors are cool, but the best part is to meet amazing people in Toronto. And today we get to meet virtually an amazing person, Ashley Jess, who has a speaking spot there in Toronto at SecTor, led by Black Hat. Ashley, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
This is going to be fun. It's a topic that caught my attention as I was going through the agenda of SecTor, which, by the way, is in Toronto, if you haven't figured that out, October 21st to the 24th. And yeah, we'll be covering the event. We have a few chats we're lining up, and Ashley's our first one. So we're excited to have you on. And just to get the session out there as well, it's called Hello from the Dumpster Fire. We love that dumpster fire, don't we?
I think
Real
that's why you
examples.
picked the
I know.
conversation.
The title makes a big difference.
Yeah, title makes a big difference, yeah.
Real examples of artificially generated malware, disinformation, and scam campaigns. Lots of fun stuff to talk about. To start, though, maybe a few words about what you're up to, the research you do, how this all, I'm sure it's formed by all the fun stuff you get to see day in and day out, and the customers you get to interact with, and the dark web you get to cruise, and all that fun stuff. So.
Yeah, so my organization, we monitor the dark web, we do cyber threat intelligence, and, me being a senior threat, intel analyst with Intel 471, we, it's a wide range of things that you can research. So I've got this unique little pocket that kind of landed in my particular desk that is Gen AI, but also disinformation, propaganda, elections. I had the Olympics while those were going on, which also, these particular areas have a lot of overlap. So I've done a lot of research into where those specific kind of topics intersect with each other. So namely, for this presentation, how AI is being used in these campaigns. And then, of course, there's also the financially motivated, threat actor side of it all with scam campaigns and malware lures, and are they using it for malware development? And what are we seeing on the front lines? And, spoiler alert, it's a hot mess, hence the title of the presentation.
Well, I have to ask this question. I know, Marco, you want to jump in, but
No,
you mentioned the Olympics. And the one thing, and Marco and I play around with him more so than me, I think, with multilingual Gen AI. And I think just the language thing. And so I'm thinking about Paris, and obviously native language French. Scams would be in French. And so I'm wondering how things change. And I don't know if you have any nuggets from interesting things that you saw during the Olympics that were specifically AI oriented that caused concern or perhaps even some havoc.
Yeah, so we saw, especially in the disinformation space, we saw some generative AI images. We saw some that had to do with politically motivated graffiti on walls that didn't exist, that had to do with the Israel-Palestine conflict, trying to perpetuate a narrative there. There was also an entirely generated film called The Olympics Has Fallen, after the film Olympus Has Fallen. They're getting punny, I guess. That was, Russian propaganda. And that one had an entire narrator with a deepfake Tom Cruise as the main narrator there. It had, an entire, the Netflix logo. It was actually pretty well produced, but used Gen AI to kind of have that sort of product. And that really showcases, even now, as Gen AI gets better, and there's all these tools out there. There's one I'll talk about in the talk that can deepfake you with a single image now. That threshold used to be that you needed at least 500 images to have even something remotely believable. And even then, the mouth still looked funky. So as this technology improves, the ones that get even stronger are still those people that have really high amounts of source material online, which is high profile individuals like celebrities who there's a lot of samples of Tom Cruise's voice, face, all angles, photos. So it shows as it gets better to deepfake, your average Joe Schmo, it gets 10, 15, 20 times better to deepfake a celebrity. So
I'm waiting for Marco to get deepfaked. He's out there all over the place.
I'm deepfake right now.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know. I have a joke. I said a few times that the deepfake, it wasn't a deepfake, but I had my voice clone on one of the first opportunity I had just because I wanted to try. It's easy. I get the podcast, just dump a few there. I mean, of course, I'm not a target, although we all are a target, but definitely if they want to get my voice and Sean's voice, it's pretty easy. And
I like to say I'm not a deep fake, I'm a real shallow.
Yeah. But the funny story is that it was too perfect because I have this Italian accent and the fake actually had a perfect English. And my wife said, yeah, it sounds like you, but it's not you. So, kind of a joke of, and I'm going somewhere with this, does it become too perfect that we can actually spot things? Or, I mean, are we past that threshold that, maybe we can spot the imperfection before and now it's too perfect and unreal at the same time?
I do think it depends. I feel like the sphere of deepfakes is pretty split in its capabilities right now with video deepfake versus audio deepfake. Audio is definitely the easier, cheaper, quicker one to do with fewer source material still. That will change over time. It might even change by the time SecTor actually comes around. Who knows? It's so quickly evolving. Every day is a new story. But it is possible. And at least on the threat actor side, though, that perfection is actually what makes it pretty powerful, because not necessarily when they're impersonating someone well, but when they're doing a cold call pretending to be from a particular company, and some of those red flags you might have looked for before that you get trained on is accents, or hearing a lot of chatter from they're in this big call center. All of that's gone. So it is possible. They are now starting to add in those vocal imperfections as well. Those ums and hms and, a quick little like as they're talking, to try to re-put in that human inflection and not have those, when you don't have those pauses, it does sound a little too perfect. So now they're adding it back in to be even more human, because the whole problem, and when we dive into this in the presentation, is, there are legitimate uses for all this technology too. It's a two-sided coin. It's the same with any sort of technological development. There are legitimate reasons why we're moving this way, but as it gets better, the other side of the coin is that there are illicit uses of it as well, right? So, as they make it more realistic, that's great for its legitimate purposes, but illicitly, it means it's still getting easier and easier.
And I'm gonna say something about this, because I finished not too long ago to read the Singularity is Nearer by Ray Kurzweil. And one of the things is, like, the moment that you get there, AI is going to have to dumb down itself if we want to pass the Turing test, because otherwise it will be too good and it will be detected as an artificial intelligence. So it's kind of like we're kind of there, I guess, because you see some video now and on social media where they show and say, well, I can't believe this person it's created by an artificial intelligence as a video, and it is flawless. And I am there. It's probably too flawless. It's more like too perfect. But again, I'll go the other way around.
Yeah, and it's this interesting space right now because it is constantly improving. But then you'll go and you'll beta test these things, and there are obvious flaws, and there's the issues with hallucinations with AI right now, which is where it will just confidently tell you something incorrect. And there was a computer scientist who just gave a TED talk a couple weeks ago that was excellent, in which she discussed testing some models, and the best one she had, I think, still had a 17% failure rating. But it's so confident in telling you that it's incorrect, and it will make up sources and make up data that unless you're going and manually checking, you're going to miss it, because those answers do look realistic. It is modeling the expected answer So it takes a certain level of critical thinking to, make sure that it is actually factually correct. So it is this weird dichotomy that it is getting used and it's more impressive than it's ever been, but it's still not this infallible technology. But then the third kind of aspect is, at the end of the day, cyber criminals are still using it no matter what. So this presentation is hopefully diving into just a very realistic, objective view on the front lines of how those three aspects play into each other and what it's looking like out there. Hence, the dumpster fire, because it's more complicated than it might seem. So,
yeah, and I think for me, what makes it complicated is who owns or who's responsible for protecting us, individuals, businesses, communities, societies, nations, whatever level. And I think if we're putting the onus on the individual to understand and spot and know how to react properly or whatever, I think that's a very hard problem to scale a solution around. And so then, well, is it an organization? Which organization? Do they use technology? And Dennis Cruz, I don't know if you know him, he presented at OWASP AppSec in Lisbon about this idea that you could use a prompt to generate responses and use different models of LLMs to validate multiple ways these responses, and so basically using technology and the AI to validate itself, so you get a better result. But I don't know how we get that into the hands of whomever needs it. So maybe your thoughts on that in terms of responsibility, and maybe connect that to your presentation. Who are you speaking to, and what are some of the things you hope to share with them?
yeah, so there's a lot of different aspects of responsibility. There's responsibility of, the output and making sure that it's accurate. There's responsibility of, some people are more advocating on the side of government regulation and, regulating this content getting shared online. Or is it, whoever shares the content, is it more their responsibility to have a system for content provenance in place and using things like Web3 to really track the original source of that data? Do we have the infrastructure to do that? Now there's vendor spaces out there who are trying to be the ones claiming responsibility to be able to detect deepfakes and be able to detect, artificially generated content. And I've tested a few of them. I've literally put in a paragraph straight into OpenAI's ChatGPT, copied it straight into one of those vendor tools, and it told me I was 100% human. If you're using that tool and it's telling you that, who does the responsibility lie with then as well? So, there's a couple different things, and I really do think government regulation of this space is this first spot that's pretty severely lacking, especially when it comes to certain uses that criminals are using this tool for, namely like CSAM is a great example there. Artificially generated CSAM regulation is lacking there. So, this is a presentation in Canada, so I am trying to keep it. I'm discussing more the vendor space and content provenance space of it all with a brief, sort of touch on regulation, but there's so many people internationally, I can't possibly touch on all of their possible government regulations, and I want to keep it as appealing to a wide audience as possible. So, I'll be discussing a little bit more on, content provenance detection and prevention at like an individual level, and then, where regulation should go. So.
And how about the fact that beside the quality, I see the quantity be an issue, and how easy it is for everybody to jump in, and now you just need a picture to create something, so it's as you said, it's going to get better and better, but also more and more accessible. So while we can create firewall for internal big companies, the everyday people that used to be the one like grandma that knock on the door, somebody dressed like a cop, oh, it must be a cop, and social engineering like that, I feel like those are going to be even more and more targeted because they don't have the guards up. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, and it is a lower barrier overall. It's a lower barrier to even use this type of technology. It's a lower barrier to use it for more technical capabilities. It's cheaper than ever before. You need less source material than ever before. There's a wider use of it. And then there's also that it's more widespread in internal systems to begin with. And now there's actors exploiting, developers who have legitimately used AI to code, bits of their back end they're now finding vulnerabilities in AI generated code to then target, and then also specific targeting of AI systems. So yeah, it's generally just overall a lower barrier. As I mentioned, even with social engineering, you need such little material. Where's the scam where people call their grandmother and pretend like they were kidnapped? Like, it's very easy now to deepfake your grandkid's voice to make it even more believable. It's very easy to, make a single image, even over a video, to make a false profile that's then used for, I don't know, like pig butchering, on some social media accounts. So same
Can
with
you describe that for folks? Pig butchering?
Oh, for pig butchering? Yeah, pig butchering is a crypto investment scheme. Usually they'll reach out to you on social media or WhatsApp or via text message. And they might even not use your real name. They might not say, hey, Sean. They might just say like, hey, John, I've got what you need. And then you reply and say like, this isn't John, this is Sean. And then they start speaking with you. Sometimes it's romantic in nature. Sometimes it's not. But typically they do pose as like a woman if they're speaking to a male. And then they'll eventually pivot to cryptocurrency discussions and get you to invest in cryptocurrency. They might even start you on a legitimate website, and then will pivot you to an illegitimate website where they're showing you a very large, unrealistic return on your investment. The term comes from the Chinese term 杀猪盘. It means like pig killing, but it's because they are fattening up their victim before they slaughter them by taking their money. It's really a terrible system that has a lot of links into human trafficking and exploitated labor on the other end. These scammers are often held in really atrocious camps in places like Malaysia and Cambodia. So very complicated scheme, but it's easy for them to make appealing false profiles where they're not even necessarily using an image of somebody who exists anymore. So,
yeah, really interesting.
Sean, I wanna go back on the talk, because reading on the website and the presentation of your talk, the end, the final sentence is that for you the content provenance and the method for detecting artificially generated content is kind of keys. No, I don't want to. And I'm looking at this thinking, are we trying to tell the people that are using the content to do their homework, or is something that you are thinking the big social media, the Gmail, the Apple, the people that are at the top of the provider of everyday's people, email and social media, to be the one that to create filters for?
Yeah, the latter in this case is really the ideal sort of situation. It gives users a way to confirm, that the provenance of that published content is really there, using information that can't be removed from that content. So Adobe has done some research in this area. They've done the Content Authenticity Initiative, and then there's also the Coalition for Content Provenance and Authenticity, or C2PA. They have a standard that marks content with provenance information and uses cryptogenic algorithms to insert hashes at like set intervals during a video that would change if that video was altered. And then, obviously that needs to be integrated in a way where it's streamlined in the user experience, where they don't have to go out of their way to, check it. But it should just be a very easy way to verify that, the video that was sent to you was sent by this person and wasn't altered anywhere in between. Or if someone downloads it and reposts it on some X account with a very similar name that's not verified, or is the paid blue, check system now, that you'll be able to tell the difference on the user end. But there's a long way to go in that, there's a lot of different research going on. MIT's got some research in the space. There's a lot of space in like, Web3 and using the blockchain to do that sort of thing. So lots of interesting research happening in the content provenance space, but it is something that is going to become, or need to become, front of mind for a lot of people consuming media. And it needs to be easy, because the cognitive load of trying to verify every single image that you would see as you're scrolling Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, it's impossible. Like it's impossible.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah. So it needs to be user facing. So it needs to be integrated in the back end by these providers.
Yeah. And it makes me think about, Marco, we've had conversations, the bad bot report, where is it more than half of the internet traffic is non-human, right? So some machine-driven, bot-enabled traffic. So we've crossed the point where machines have taken over the network. And now I can see a world, if we're not there already, I don't know if anybody's tracking this, where content is machine driven.
Yep, there's a lot of research into the concept of pink slime journalism, which is, these news agencies that are posing as, your local newspaper that actually are funded typically by political entities. But I mean, there's foreign pink slime. There's a couple different versions of pink slime that are usually using Gen AI to generate filler content to kind of establish newspapers having a bunch of articles. And then, in fact, are pushing articles that usually have some sort of ulterior motive, whether that's, on the political side, getting you to vote one way or the other, on the foreign side, foreign interference one way or the other, but they're using Gen AI to supplement the rest of their website. And it's been estimated now, there's a couple of great organizations that track some of these websites, that they have now tracked a number of pink slime websites that outnumber the number of local newspapers still available in the United States, to use US as an example, meaning that the false websites now outnumber the legitimate ones.
A fascinating topic.
Dumpster fire.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I hope you get to investigate and explore and experience other things besides this to kind of lift you up and out of the dumpster.
There's a lot of other great talks in the AI track that have, proposed solutions. So I'm excited to go sit in on all of those for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's been an absolute treat chatting with you, Ashley. And of course, I encourage everybody, hopefully I'll see you there in Toronto, October 21st through the 24th at SecTor. It's a Black Hat Informa event. And Ashley's session, Hello from the Dumpster Fire, Real Examples of Artificially Generated Malware, Disinformation, and Scam Campaigns, is on, is there no date and time?
We don't know.
I don't think they've given us the schedule yet, but I'll be on one of those days. So.
You're there one of those 3 days. Everybody should go for the 3 days and be sure to connect with Ashley. And you mentioned a few resources, so maybe be kind enough to share those so we can share some of those things with folks listening and watching.
Yeah, of course.
This episode. And good stuff. I appreciate you taking the time to share. Congratulations on getting a spot to speak there. I know it's a fun deal submitting presentations and
my first one.
job.
So
look at that.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Exciting.
Nice one. Well, I hope everybody gets to meet you and enjoy your session. Have a good chat with you afterwards. And everybody listening, watching, please do stay tuned for more coverage on the road and on location.
Subscribe.
From SecTor. Subscribe. Is it up or down or sideways? I don't know. It's right here.
I'm in a very limited
click
space
the nose
right now. Somewhere at the end, you're going to see it.
Somewhere
if you're watching the video.
Very good. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Ashley.
Yeah, thank you.